Beckett Grading, BGS. Hey, there are a lot of reasons why they might be the worst. First of all, they're owned by Greg Lindbergh, who just happens to be sitting in prison. He got a 7-year sentence a couple years ago. So that just shows you right there the leadership involved there. Number two in charge was this guy called Sandeep Dua, who's still on the board of directors over there. Find one person who has a good thing to say about Sandeep. This is a guy who's been sued by employees. This is a guy who, behind his back, every current and former employee doesn't have a whole lot of good things to say about him. Beckett is a company that lost market share in one of the biggest booms in the history of sports cards. A lot of you dorks out there don't remember that, hey, you used to send your modern cards to BGS, and PSA was for the old men, and anybody else, they were probably charging like $2 to $5 a slab just to get your card in a piece of plastic. So Beckett, was unquestionably, the number one or number two grader, depending on kind of what you collected. And they have fallen so far in the last couple of years when we've seen sports cards boom. So it goes to show, the leadership or the lack thereof. Again, the top guy's in prison, and the, number two and guy in charge, everybody hates. So, and another thing you had happen right before the sports card boom is you had the Joe Clemens Leaf scandal. That played a huge factor in people who were super into cards and, have been into cards for a long time. I wouldn't discredit that, that there's still questions there about whether Brian Gray at Leaf and, a former employee that used to work at Beckett and currently works at Leaf has a homie hookup with Black Labels. And we've done a video about this on the channel that you can watch. And Joe Clemens isn't the only one with a homie hookup at Beckett. That's just the one we've discovered. So Beckett has fallen, far because of poor leadership and because they just haven't been able to stay up with the times and keep up with the current trends in the recent card booms. And needless to say, their owner's sitting in prison for 7 years. So do you want to send cards to them? You can decide. SGC, a lot of you kind of newbies have kind of anointed this company and kind of propped them up to be kind of something more than they really are. Hey, look, the company started a long time ago by a known card trimmer, Dave Foreman. So, the company was started by a scammer, a cheat, and a fraud. So that to me is, a huge red flag. I don't care about what's going forward. It seems to me the company's really concerned about just cranking things out. They've gotten lucky that a lot of you newbies have started sending them modern cards, which nobody used to ever do, ever in your life before 2018, 19. Did you ever in your life think about sending a modern card to SGC? So you guys have, propped this company up to be more than it is. They don't have any technology or anything special that makes them stand apart from any of these other companies. Frankly, I think their holder is cheap and ugly and prone to scratches and just doesn't look as good as even some of the other kind of even 4th and 5th tier grading companies. But to each their own on kind of the appearance and the style of the slab. But again, the company is started by Dave Foreman, a known card trimmer, fraud, cheat. And so that's a huge red flag and just somebody I would never trust. HGA, hybrid grading approach. I think, people were excited when this thing came out. They thought they really were going to use AI technology on this stuff. And turns out that just never really happened. These guys grade cards like everybody else. And hey, this company's a disaster. It seems like everybody in the hobby is kind of unanimously kind of assume that this company is going to go out of business soon. They barely get any orders. They're running at a backlog probably because they're just having problems grading these cards for one reason or the other. Technology, printing the labels, getting enough people there. One reason and another, they're just getting held up with really just not that many orders. And hey, I had a female graphic designer who worked for this company for a few weeks, sent me a huge long direct message on Twitter a few weeks ago and just said, hey, Tyler and these guys set up this company basically to cheat on their wives and get women. So that's not coming from my mouth. That's coming from somebody who was in the building and worked with these people. So take that for what it's worth. And again, another company that if you're sitting there, why in the world would you send anything worth any amount of money from 10 cents all the way up to $10,000 to this company? The slabs don't add any value. And again, hey, you could say they look nice, da 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 da. I think you could probably, make these yourself. Maybe not as cheaply, but you could probably figure out a way to make a holder and make a snazzy label for the card yourself without having to send off to a company like HGA, which, again, it's pretty universally accepted that this company, at some point, possibly soon, will be out of business. DCI grading, a lot of you guys have probably never even heard of this company. Look, I've just seen a couple influencers posting a couple things. What are you guys getting to post this stuff? DCI grading, it's like $23 a card for a 6-month turnaround. Who in the world would do that? Even if PSA is like $50 or any of these other companies are at a comparable price. It just doesn't make any sense. So I just hate it when these guys, these influencer guys, start talking about, we're talking about 5th and 6th tier grading companies at this point that are $23. It'd be one thing if it was $5 a card, $10 a card. It was like a value slab or they offered something else. But, oh Lord, just stop. Please stop with these stupid 5th, 6th tier grading companies, and then you guys hype them like they're going to be relevant. I guess you guys in some ways have made HGA and in some ways SGC relevant in the last few years. So thanks. But DCI grading and some of these other ones below them, just please stop. $23 a card, 6-month turnaround. Just light your cards on fire before you do something like that. CSG, another one of these kind of new kids on the block. And hey, we could talk about their holders and the look and blah, blah, blah. But, they probably have the one guy, literally the one single person working at one of these grading companies that I would trust. His name's Andy Broom. He came over from Beckett and is, I think been working over at CSG, kind of one of their first hires from day one. And hey, the interactions I've had with this guy have been positive. He comes across as a nice person. Would I send my cards to CSG? No. Would I buy CSG slabs? Absolutely. Would I trust their grades over any other? No. Are they going to make mistakes? Yes. And that's the problem with these companies. Unless you have people like Andy, who's graded a lot of cards and can tell, some counterfeits from others. If any of these grading companies gain steam, like an HGA or a DCI, all the scammers and card trimmers and little guys out there, they're just going to flood those people with cards that are fake or trimmed or hard to detect. And those are going to get put in slabs that are now seen as valuable by the community. And so that's why you guys who just blindly trust these companies and kind of, these influencer post videos without even knowing anything about these companies aside from getting a kickback or meeting a guy at a card show, it's just reckless and stupid. And so, yeah, if I have to sit out here in, the middle of nowhere in California and talk for 10, 12 minutes on a video to just say what crap all of that is and what crap all these companies are, it's something that'll be done. So CSG, yeah, they have a guy there that I would trust, but again, we need more time with them. They've only been around for a short period of time. We need more time with them in terms of, how are they discovering trim cards? How are they discovering fakes? How are they, curtailing that stuff? What's the price point on their graded stuff? I haven't checked that lately. We got to bring these prices way, way down. That's when card prices boomed, actually, when there was affordable grading. Once PSA closed up shop and, the affordable grading went away, it essentially, stopped the card boom. So what's the price point? How are they curtailing fraud? These are things we need to know. It looks like CSG is also involved with a new like eBay authentication or all that stuff where you buy a card on eBay for over $500 and it goes to CSG. So they've gotten in bed with eBay. So we'll have to see, how that process goes. I know people have, complained about that. So, jury's still out on CSG. PSA, currently the grading leaders of sports cards. And, the company historically that we over at Sports Card Radio have taken the most shots at. I think there was at one point I was blocked by, might still be, blocked by PSA, Joe Orlando, and Steve Sloan on Twitter. This dates back to the 2019 card trimming scandal, when it was discovered that there are literally thousands, probably tens of thousands, of altered, trimmed, recolored, cleaned, you name it, cards in PSA holders that scammers have been able to figure out that you're able to take these cards in real low grade condition, usually vintage cards, and, you know, dress them up, press them, take off, you know, little edges, scoop a corner, recolor a little something, and all of a sudden you get a card that might have graded a PSA 2 or 4, and all of a sudden it turns into a 6, 8, or 9, and you've got thousands of dollars of difference. Now, since the card trimming scandal, there has been an ownership and a leadership change over there. Nat Turner's running the show. You know, and a lot of you guys kind of worship this guy because he has cards you guys want, and you kind of worship him and probably have given him a pass in some respects. He's been over there at PSA about a year and a half, and hey, they still have a backlog. They still don't have a low-cost grading option at PSA. You know, it used to be you could grade cards for like $20 or less at PSA. Now I think it's the lowest cost is $50, and I think that's by lottery. So it's become kind of a premium service. They haven't really addressed outwardly the card trimming scandal. Now, maybe internally they're working on some AI stuff and some, you know, Gemament or whatever company they bought kind of originally a couple years ago. Maybe they're employing some of that technology and going to solve some of this, you know, card trimming altering problem that is still happening in the industry today. And the company's made weird acquisitions. Hey, they acquired Golden Auctions. Does that help the process of grading cards, clearing a backlog, creating a low price service, grading cards accurately? No. Ken Golden, first, you know, on a side tangent, one of the shadiest guys in the entire industry. I can't believe, you know, we're propping him up and, you know, throwing him out there with guys like Drake and opening cards. Ken Golden back in the, you know, 90s and 2000s is one of the most shady guys. He sold so much fake stuff, and just, what was he on, the little shop at home network with Don West and stuff, and that stuff is just, oh God, he's just like a dirty, scummy, slimy guy. People don't have a whole lot of nice things to say about him. The guys who've been around the industry a long time don't really, you know, like the guy. He big times everybody, you know, unless you're Drake or somebody, you know, with huge stature or with big cards, he doesn't have the time of day for you. So this is just a guy to this day that's probably still running scams in this industry. So this is a company that PSA acquired though, and is, you know, in the fold. So we'll see what happens there. I don't like it, you know, but at this point of all these grading companies, you know, that we talked about, PSA is probably the one you're going to trust. They actually add value to your card, depending, you know, as long as you don't get a horrible grade on it. They actually add value. And at this point, they're the company with the most money, the most invested, and the best leadership going forward. And so right now, 2022, PSA, probably the one option to grade cards, but you guys will come up with 5 or 6 other ones on your own and hype them. So be my guest.